everybody, and thanks for tuning back into my channel, Why Not Cook. Today we're going to be making beef short ribs. Now let's get into it. So here we have 4 pounds, it's about 4 1/3 pounds of beef short ribs. So what we're going to start out first doing is trimming the excess fat. So as you can see here, there's a layer of excess fat. So you don't really want this much fat. You do want some, but you don't need this much. All it's going to do is make your pot too greasy. So let's start out by trimming this excess fat. And not all of the pieces will have so much fat that needs to be trimmed off, but this one does, so we're going to go ahead and trim that excess off. Now that's good. So now as you see this piece, you don't really see a bunch of excess fat on here. You just see a meat, and this is the bone, and here you just see a little bit of the skin. So we can take off some of this excess skin here, but it's not really a full layer of fat. So let's go ahead and trim up all of these, and then we'll come back and show you what it looks like. Now that our short ribs are fully trimmed up, we're going to go ahead and get into some seasoning. Here I have a 1/2 tablespoon of some kosher salt and about a 1/2 teaspoon of some black pepper. I'm just going to put them all together, and we're going to be making a light rub. And I have here a teaspoon of onion powder and garlic powder. Then I also have a little bit of red chili flake here, and a little piece of bay leaf got in there. So let's just give that a quick mix, and we're just going to pour this directly onto the ribs, and we're going to try to coat the other side as well. Okay, now what we're going to do is just give this a quick mix, just making sure that we get some seasoning on each side of the rib. Let's give our hands a quick wash before we move on into the next step. Okay, so now we're going to take some flour and coat the ribs. Not too much, just enough to give it a coat, as we're going to be searing off these ribs. Not deep frying, just a sear on each side. So let's go ahead and get started. We're putting our first set into a pot of some warmed oil. In here, in this pot, I have already some canola oil that's warmed, and we're going to go ahead and start searing off these ribs. So as you can see here, our ribs are searing in the pot. You also probably noticed I changed the pot. The other pot was quite deep, and I don't really need that pot right now. So what we're going to do is turn them, because we want to get a nice brown sear on all sides. So you see this? This is what we're looking for, a nice brown crust. This one can go a little bit more on that side. So we're just going to turn all sides to make sure we get this brown golden sear here. See this? on all sides of the short ribs before we take them out. So while the beef is over there in the pot searing, this is actually a good time for us to start on our vegetables. So what we're going to be using is a whole onion, medium-sized onion, 2 stalks of celery, 2 carrots, and a whole tomato. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all sliced up, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, now that we have all of our ribs nicely browned and seared on either side, on every side, what we're going to do here now is take the excess oil. See, we have some excess oil here. So I'm just going to pour that off. Don't need all that extra grease. And now what we're going to do is move right into our veggies that we cut up earlier and get those cooking in the same pot that we cooked the beef in. So we're going to start with our onions, celery, and carrots. So just get that in there, let that start searing. All those little bits on the bottom of the pot, you want to save them. That's where the flavor is trapped. So we're going to get that up once we deglaze our pot. So let these sear for about 2 minutes. Okay, our onions and carrots and celery have been cooking for 2 minutes now. What we're going to do is add that diced tomato, about 3 cloves of minced garlic, and a cup of chili sauce. So this is the chili sauce. It almost looks like ketchup. It's like kind of like a ketchup but with some spice and some flavor to it. In case you're not familiar with what it looks like, this is what chili sauce actually looks like. You can find it most likely next to the ketchup in your local supermarket. Chili sauce. So let's stir that in. Let this cook for about another minute or so. And then we'll be adding our last ingredient before we get the meat back in the pot. Okay, now that this has been going for about a minute, let's add a cup of red wine. And what you want to do is let this reduce by half. So what that means is look at, pretty much try to gauge where your line is in the pot. And when it gets to half that amount, that means it has reduced by half. And then you can come back and add your additional ingredients. As you can see, our pot has now reduced by half. You don't really see all that liquid that was in here before. So what we're going to do now is add in 2 cups of beef stock. and 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, a couple of bay leaves, and a couple of sprigs of fresh thyme. Just get that in there. And now we're ready to add our short ribs back to the pot, and these will continue to cook for at least an hour and a half or so. So let's see. So as you can see, here we have our braised short ribs, nicely browned on all sides. What we're going to do is get them back in the pot. And we're going to leave this really on a low to medium heat. Do not cook it fast, so you're not turning the pot up really high, because it's going to be a slow process. So we're going to get these in here. You can also probably add about a cup of water, but let's see. At this point, I am likely to switch the pot because it looks like my pot may be too small for the amount of ribs that I have. So make sure that your pot is big enough before you start out. So I'm going to probably get all the ribs in the pot, add a cup of water, let this cook for a good hour and a half or hour 45, and then we will be back to show you where we're at. Since I had so many short ribs, I did in fact go ahead and change the pot to a deeper pot. I also added another cup of beef stock, as well as 2.5 to 3 cups of water, and this is what it looks like. And what we're going to do is now go ahead and let this come to a simmer on medium heat for an hour and a half before we will even come back to check the pot. Okay everybody, so we're back now. Our short ribs have now been cooking on a medium heat for 2 hours. And this is what we're looking for, a nicely thickened gravy. And they are well done and nice and tender. So what I'm going to do here is get one out and show you how tender it is. So let's take this one out. Let's grab a plate here. Some gravy, and let's see. Okay, so this beef short rib has been cooking for 2 hours on a medium heat. I just want to show you how soft it is. Look how easily that just comes right off the bone. You don't really need much effort to cut into this at all. So I just wanted to show you how easy and nice and soft and tender it is. And you can just give it a quick try. If I can get it to stay on the fork, it's so soft. It is absolutely delicious. Okay everybody, so that was my video on making beef short ribs. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up. Also leave me a comment and let me know what you think, especially if you made it. I want to know what you think and how they turn out. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe and that notification bell, and I will see you again on the next one. Thanks for watching.